This video is called Subtle Racism in the Workplace. People of color in white space. Before we can dive into this, can I ask you to do me a favor? Crush the subscription button right now. Subscribe to this channel. We want to grow this channel. We ask you for your help so that we can keep on delivering this content to you. And so the topic today is subtle racism, people of color in white space. We are touching on a controversial subject because any accusation of racism is normally received with indignation. We are not pointing out that anyone is racist, but we are talking about subtle things that happen to people of color in workplaces which are white dominated or white controlled. And some of these things tends to happen consciously or unconsciously. There is implicit bias associated with these things. What we are going to discuss in this video, you shouldn't use it to judge your situation. It's for general knowledge, general information. We are not picking up on anybody, or shouldn't say. That's why this happened to me on that. We are going to slightly discuss how it's subtle, direct. It's not like anyone calls anyone any derogatory terms. We are discussing how it happens in the way it happens. In this context, if I say they are the dominant group, as I said, people of color in white space, white people who are the controlling group in some cases. And the you refers to in this context will be that you, the person of color. The first one is how this subtle racism is practiced is they downplay your achievements and amplify your setbacks. What does that mean? They are not prepared to give you credit for your achievements or talk about them. Go to a megaphone about your achievements. But conversely, they are prepared to pick up a megaphone for your setbacks, for your failures, for where you screwed up, for where you made the mistake. We don't know the reason why this is done, but people we have researched, they're saying this is done to perpetuate constant sense of self-doubt. They might manipulate circumstances to induce a feeling of guilt for ordinary action. Oh, why didn't you do that? Oh, that report didn't go on time. This is done again to perpetuate a sense of self-doubt. The gentleman who written extensively on this subject, he was giving a speech in front of the audience about this subtle racism in the workplace, people of color in white space. He was asked, why is this done to perpetuate a sense of self-doubt or manipulate circumstances to induce a feeling of guilt for ordinary action? He says the objective is to continue to dominate the other, according to this. Of course, himself being a Caucasian gentleman, the other being people of color. He says we have been used to dominate the other, and we want to perpetuate that. We do not want to accept equality or to be dominated by the other. That's what he answered the question which was asked by one of his audience. The next is a lack of genuine support. This depends with the type of jobs which you are doing, with the circumstances. The gentleman who have written extensively on this, he gives case studies of how this is done. There is lack of genuine support from your peers. They say, if you are a person of color in a white-dominated environment, they might pretend to support you, but there is a lack of genuine support of whatever you are doing. I remember he gives an example of people who are working on an engineering project. I can't go into the case studies. There is superficial closeness. What do we mean by superficial closeness? He alleges that if you are a person of color in a white space, they pretend to be friends. There is a pretense of friendship, which is not deep, which is not genuine, which is very superficial. And any slight disagreements will lead into a battleground, will become a war. And so he alleges that People of color in a white space, they are not respected by their peers, by their white peers. They might not be overtly treated with rudeness, but there is really lack of genuine respect. That this is done to assert dominance in a way that it diminishes the other, keeping an upper hand in a situation where equality and mutual respect should be the norm. According to this gentleman, he alleges white folks reluctant to accept equality with the other in the workplace. They want to keep a dominating hand in all situations. This is why there is this lack of respect, dominance, and the control in a way that diminishes the other, and keeping an upper hand in situations where equality and mutual respect should be the norm. We are talking about workplaces here in the Western world where they are dominated and controlled in most cases, if not in all cases, by white folks, by Caucasian people, and you are the other. If there is a disagreement in the workplace, these disagreements are not resolved with the empathy and understanding. They turn into a battle. Very small issues that turned into a mountain, or as the old that says, creating a storm in it. He alleges that there is a difference between white and white disagreement, and then white and person of color disagreement is handled in a workplace. The other thing, if it is dominated and controlled by them though, and obviously he knows that ultimately the issue will be resolved by a manager who might be look like him or her, and then he is asserting what this gentleman says, the upper hand in a situation where equality and mutual respect should be the norm. We are talking about subtle racism in the workplace, people of color in white space. If you have made it so far, we suggest that you subscribe to this channel. We talk topics on finance and anything that affect the well-being of individual. Of course, in order to be financially successful, you need a workplace that treats you as a human being. Racism in the workplace. They assume you are less intelligent than them. This is coming from a Caucasian gentleman. He says, if you are a person of color in a workplace, his fellow white folks assume that you are less intelligent than them. This can be portrayed in many. Sometimes you can be asked a very stupid question, which should be asked from any grown-up man or any adult, to demonstrate this, that they are assuming that you are less intelligent than them. The next one, there is a lack of empathy or sympathy. According to the works of the gentleman, the lack of empathy and sympathy come from the twofold: your peers at your level and also from the management. If a person of color and it's a white-dominated workplace and the management is white, he says we all go through losses, we all go through illnesses and things. If there is a loss from one of them, the demonstration of empathy and sympathy is different if it is from the other. Gives a lot of case studies, but I wouldn't want to go into much details. The next one, there is lack of trust to do the job. He gives an example of, there was this project and there was a group which was supposed to be carrying out certain tasks of a certain job, and then in this group it was white dominated work environment and white controlled. Then the group assigned on this project was predominantly of color, about 10 people, and then 3 of them were white, and then the manager appoints one of the white, who was only 3 people in that group, to oversee the project. He makes a point that whenever there is an ad hoc group formed, and then we also have to come up with an ad hoc supervisor, we are to quickly appoint somebody to lead that project. He makes a point that a white manager will have this bias that in most cases he can quickly appoint a white person because consciously or subconsciously there is lack of trust in those who don't look like him. I said, this is really a controversial issue which we are going through, but these tough issues, sometimes we have to tackle them. And also, you can be treated with lack of respect, you can be overtly disrespectful. This varies with given situations, given environments. In Canada, a government employee brought a lawsuit concerning something like this. So this gentleman says this practice is widespread. There are people of color, they are being treated with disrespect or either overtly or covertly in workplaces. Then being blamed for anything that goes wrong. There is a gentleman, he is now a stand-up comedian. He was a software engineer. The gentleman is of East Indian origin. They were working on different software projects, and whenever a product goes to the customer and it's done very well, and his fellow white co-workers, they were rushing to take credit for it. But firstly, if there was something wrong, those who don't look like us. This is Scottish gentleman who wrote on this subtle racism in the workplace, people of color in white space. He talks about it and he gives a lot of case studies on it, where in the workplace, if something goes wrong, it's being blamed on those who don't look like us. And if something is right, woo-ha, we got it. Give shout to us, we are good. The next, treating your ideas and contribution to a discussion with contempt. Say you are in a group, you are brainstorming on something. It says that if a person of color speaks up, gives up an idea, oh, this is how we are going to do it, we have to do it this way. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, okay. And not being taken serious. But then if they would value the other contributions from their own, they treat your ideas and contributions with contempt. They disregard them. Say, you are talking BS. You are talking bullshit. Although they don't overtly say that, or they don't overtly show being excluded in social cycle. Of course, in a work environment where there are people, there are social cycles and there are social group formed, and you will be excluded from these social cycles. Some form some social cycles where they will go and maybe hang out after work, and in most cases, people of color will be excluded from these social cycles. And asking the other the question that show contempt or disrespect, himself gives up case studies and case studies, judging you by their culture. Being, whether you are Chinese, you are Caucasian, East Indian, you are Native American, our differences are not much in skin color. Our differences are much in culture. And culture is the basis of morals. Judging you by their culture becomes another form of discrimination, another form of racism, to be yourself. Always choosing one of their own to lead. This is mostly done where ad hoc group is formed. We are not talking much about promotion here. He gives an example of where these people are working on a project, and 7 in those group were people of color, and 3 in that group were white. And then the manager, who was white, chose one of the whites to lead that group. Holding petty grudges. If you are in an environment where you spend 8 hours of your lifetime with people, we are people, and there are bound to be disagreements and misunderstanding. According to the gentleman, he says, once the person of color steps on the toe, this white person can hold a grudge forever. There is no forgiveness. They are very quick to hold it against you. Unlike if it was done by one of their own, they might have a different take of it. And also stereotyping and dividing you into groups, that those who look like they behave this way. And the last one, they at times spread negative and malicious rumors. They can collectively share a negative opinion of the other. The bottom line, Things we have discussed in this video about subtle racism and people of color in white space for general information. They should not be used to judge people. People are different. But generally, for those who have looked at these studies, they have found that, of course, there are common practices. These are common practices or trends about some of these behaviors, but it doesn't necessarily mean everybody's like this. I've worked and come across very good people of all races, so we shouldn't be judging ourselves by what has been written or said or recorded in a video by certain people. These are some of the trends in the workplace and some of the treatments. It should not be used to judge people. We thank you for watching this video. If you have made it right to the end, subscribe to this on this video. We want you to subscribe. We want to grow the channel.